One of the things that I think is the hardest to do is shut down the voices in our heads. Even comments others make influence our inner demons. As I spend time editing my podcast, I reflect back on a few of my on-camera experiences that I've had. One, when I was doing So Chic with Stephen and Chris, the network had sent all of us phrases that we needed to not repeat on camera because apparently they were our cliche go-to phrases. I like to think of them more of like a catchphrase. I don't remember what mine were, but I don't doubt that it was likely, "That's amazing," because I say it all the fucking time. And I'm sorry to those listening if this is now going to alert you to this. I am trying to not say it anymore. I'm trying to find something suitable, like a roll off the tongue replacement, but maybe we can turn it into a drinking game with tequila from my next guest. You know what else is feeding the demons in my head? Something popped in my suggested for me page with some woman who apparently coaches people in public speaking. She says if you say "that is amazing" as part of your vocabulary, you will never be a leader. Okay, I guess I fell right out of the fucking gate. Well, of course, that goes deeper into my head since it's already living there. Well, now for sure, I'll never be a leader. As if I didn't need help overthinking. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Does anybody even want to listen to me? Honestly, maybe you don't. Maybe you're just like, fucking get on with it, Andrea. If you feel these openers are a little too much of a bit, rambly nothingness and you don't find them interesting, well, okay, bitch. Just kidding. But just to let you know, you can just slide on through and go straight into the conversation with my guest. I do that with some of the podcasts I listen to. For example, I love Mark Maron's podcast, but sometimes, 15 to 20 minutes of an opener, like, okay, dude, enough already. Swipes forward to guest. Welcome to the Fuck You 50s, the podcast for women who refuse to tolerate the bullshit anymore. This is real talk, real stories, and a long overdue reality check. I'm your host, Andrea Claire, and this podcast is the filter-free voice you've been waiting for, with a dose of F-bombs. The Fuck You 50s. Unfiltered, unapologetic, and undeniably needed. My next guest is Nayana Ferguson, who shares her inspirational journey as the first Black woman to lead a tequila brand and is the co-founder of Anteel Tequila. She discusses her experiences as a cancer survivor, the challenges of navigating a male-dominated industry, and the importance of community and resilience. Nayana emphasizes the privilege of aging and the wisdom that comes with life experiences, while also highlighting her passion for public speaking and motivating others. Our conversation touches on family dynamics, future aspirations, and the power of mindset in overcoming adversity. Nayana, welcome to the Fuck You 50s. Welcome. I'm Andrea. Welcome to the Fuck You 50s.
Hi, Andrea.
So nice to meet you. So you pronounce your name Nayana, is that correct?
Nayana. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can call me Nay, though.
Oh, whatever your preference is.
Yeah, call me Nay.
Nay. Okay. So I'm really excited about your story. I was even watching a bunch of interviews that you've done online, and also like the Kelly Clarkson show. Like that's amazing. And I watched your interview on the Atlanta. I guess that was Fox. I think that was last year, right? I think that you did that.
They have Fox 5, and then they also have Atlanta News First.
Yeah, I think it was Fox
on
5.
11 or something. So yeah.
Yeah. So you've got such a great story. So so let's just kind of jump in.
Well, I am Nayana Ferguson. I am the co-founder of Anteel Tequila, which is a multi-award-winning tequila brand. When we launched in 2018, I actually became the first Black woman to own a tequila brand in the world at that time, because there was no other woman or Black woman in that space at that time. I am a 19-year pancreatic cancer survivor, and I am also a 13-year breast cancer survivor. So those are really two basic important points why we started a tequila brand, because you know what? I still want to have a cocktail here and there.
Yep.
And I needed to find out something that I could actually drink, being a 2-time cancer survivor. So that led us to tequila. So that's kind of why we started it. Our brand has won 125 awards since 2019. So we're actually one of the most awarded tequila brands on the market.
Congratulations.
And thank you. So we are available at about 12 states right now. And consistently trying to move and grow.
Yeah. I'm kicking myself now because, I was in Boston not that long ago, and I should have checked to see if your tequila was there, because I love tequila, and it would have been great to see if there's a bottle to bring home. But with any luck, I'll be back there again, and then I can get some.
Well,
If
not
you're,
Boston. We're not in Boston. Where are you located?
I'm in Toronto, Canada. So
Okay.
unless you're up in Canada, I don't know.
No, and with all the stuff of US brands in
Wait,
Canada and
yeah,
all
yeah. Oh my gosh, we won't talk about that.
so no, I'm not.
No, but if you're in Minneapolis, I have an aunt that's in Minneapolis, and she can snag me
She can
some.
order it online and
Yeah.
then, so yeah.
Yeah, perfect. It's interesting because tequila is one of the like drinks or spirits that I can have. Like I have an autoimmune disorder,
Mhm.
and whenever I have wine or anything, like I like a nice glass of red wine, but my joints gets like so sore. And it was interesting reading up about tequila and your brand and just how tequila seems to not kind of cause that inflammation. So I'm like, well, yay, now I know I can
Yeah.
guilt-free drink tequila.
And that was one of the things as well. I like wine too, but I was more of a sweet wine person. I don't really couldn't really do the dry wines, but the sweet wine, just because of the sulfites, the sugar content, I could drink one and maybe another one, but I would feel so lethargic and things like that later. I would get a headache
Yeah.
and so that's why researching about tequila, that was just something that I could drink a little bit better.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect me,
Yeah.
in that manner. It doesn't hike my glycemic index when I'm drinking it neat. Now, a lot of people make mixed cocktails. That's when you're adding sugar to it. But, our tequilas have no added sweeteners, sugars, or syrups just because of the fact that I want to make sure that I'm able to, drink it.
Yeah. Now, is that typical of tequila, or does it depend on the brand? Is tequila generally like sugar-free and
So the agave plant, which is what tequila comes from, is naturally gluten free, naturally low sugar, carbs, and things like that. There are ways that some brands do add something to their tequila, and they can add up to 1% and not tell you. But to make it more, I guess, palatable to some palates who are addicted to sugar. Most of us are all addicted to sugar, so they try to add some sort of sugar component to make it more palatable. But there are other ways to do that without adding sugar, and that's kind of what we do with ours.
yeah, because you
We do
have
more of
like
a
a coconut
oxygenation.
lime wine, right?
Yeah, so we have the world's only coconut lime blanco tequila, which is actually our bestseller and most awarded. Out of our 125 awards, it has 38 of its own, just because it is an innovative product. It's won platinums, won double golds, and all of these things. And even though it is something that's added, it is a natural extract to our tequila. So making sure I keep in line with not adding all those added sugars.
Right.
Our distillery does more of an oxygenation process to help smooth out, some of those things that people don't find palatable.
Right. So I think it would be great just because of I generally like the audience of my podcast, and a lot of women, once we start getting to a certain age, like there's so many women that are deciding not to drink anymore for various reasons,
Yeah.
or some that are cutting back, or like trying to find something that they can drink where it doesn't affect them too much health wise or weight gain, whatever. So it sounds like your tequila is like ticking a lot of boxes there.
Yeah, as we're getting, over our 50s, but we are, yeah, you just need to be more cognizant of what you're eating and drinking because we're not 20 anymore. We
No.
can't do the whole college thing and mix everything and wake up the next day, maybe a little tired, but you're still ready to go. We can't do that anymore.
No.
Usually, if you do something like that, it's going to take you a couple days
I know. Oh my
recover,
God.
recover. So I,
Sometimes because like what I do, like I'm a hair and makeup artist, right? So I work on a lot of photo shoots and things. And so sometimes it's like if I have a bunch of friends that want to go out or, come or like whatever, get together for drinks, I'm like, okay, well, what's my schedule next week? Because I need like 2 or 3 days to recover. It's like, oh, I've got to shoot in 2 days. Sorry, I can't meet for drinks tonight.
right? I mean, and that's the thing, you have to think about it now after you
Yeah.
get past a certain age. You
Yeah.
really have to think about that, like, is that worth it?
Yeah. Yeah. So how, like, I know because I've heard you tell the story and on your like other interviews and chats that you've had, but how did you, like, where did you, like, what industry did you come from and how did you get into the spirit market?
Truly, it started a little bit back when in 2016, my then boyfriend at the time, I took him on a surprise trip for his birthday to the Dominican. He didn't know where we were going till we got to the airport. But what I didn't know was he was proposing. So, I always like, yeah, he upped my surprise. Like, really?
You're like, "Oh my god, you just took
Right.
away from me, thanks."
Right. So, while we were celebrating that weekend, we were drinking tequila and talking about our future and all of that, celebrating our engagement and his birthday. And we just kind of jokingly like, I wonder if we had a tequila brand, what would we do? But what's also significant about that is that we saw hummingbirds flying around when we were having dinner. And that is actually the logo for Anteel Tequila because it actually comes from a name of a hummingbird, the Antillean crested hummingbird.
Oh, okay.
So, kind of fast forward a year later, we were getting married and all this other type of stuff. A lot happened in 2017. We started the company, we got married, and it came because we had a couch conversation, which is what I like to say. And I said, we were like, we are both too smart. My husband was a VP of operations at Quicken Loans Rocket Mortgage at the time. I am formerly a financial analyst in the automotive
Mhm.
field. So we were both corporate people. And I asked him, I said, if you could do anything, what would you do? Because we were talking about businesses, investments.
Yeah,
And he was like, I would own a tequila brand, but there's no way we can do that. And I
yeah,
was like, why not?
yeah,
So I went on to prove, why not?
yeah,
I do speak Spanish, so I was able to get in touch with the distillery that we work with today and started that process of learning because there's not a blueprint out there on how to start a tequila brand. Now, I
yeah,
did find information on starting a vodka or a wine, but I did not find anything about starting a tequila brand. So I had to do a lot of questions and everything
yeah.
to figure this out. And my husband was kind of skeptical at first, but I got some, samples sent. We had an amazing tasting party with friends, to help us score
Yeah,
the samples that we were sent. And then my husband was like, can we really do this? And I was like, yeah. So I came up with a little budget for a proof of concept,
yeah.
run. Basically, 11 months later, I had the first bottle in hand. And
So
he was
exciting.
like, are you sure we can really do this? I said, so look here, I'm going to get this here and you got to sell it.
Yeah,
And those are our roles today. Me, I am more logistics, operations, handling all the logistics for making sure the tequila is made at our distillery in Mexico
yeah,
and getting it here to the US. And
yeah.
then he is over our sales teams and marketing and things like that.
So exciting. And then so with your first bottle, did you save the first bottle?
The first one, no, we ended up, but we do have bottles from that time. We do
Yeah,
have bottles from that first
batch or
shipment.
whatever.
We had to change bottles during COVID. Like it was a whole mess going on
Yeah.
during COVID. So if you want to talk about challenges, that's a challenge that we had. We had to change a bottle and
Wait,
everything.
what was the reason for having to change the bottle?
Because of COVID, a lot of things were backed up. And even though our glass is made in Mexico, but the glass manufacturer stopped making the bottle that we had because it was more of a special kind of bottle.
Right.
And they're like, they're going back to basic bottles because of materials was getting held up.
Yeah,
All
so I
the
guess the whole supply chain thing,
Yep,
right?
the
So,
supply
yeah, of
chain was
course.
was totally messed up. So they're like, well, we got to go to more basic bottles. So you either gonna have this. So they totally stopped making our bottle. I did, try to get a glass maker to make that bottle, but then I would have had to pay for the mold, and that was just a lot of money that I
Yeah,
wasn't about to do at that time. Well, I got it here, and in Michigan, we started because I'm originally from Detroit,
right.
Michigan. I live in Atlanta now,
Yeah,
and we launched August of 2018. Then, 2019, our first full year on the market is when we started entering competitions for awards, international competitions and
yeah,
things like that. And we
yeah.
started winning awards at that time.
That's so great. It's so great to kind of like get your foot in the door and immediately start winning awards. Is there like a massive amount of competition? Like honestly, obviously it's not a market that I know, but is there like are you competing with big brands? Are you competing with boutique brands, or is it kind of everybody all in?
Because tequila has gotten hot, especially in the last, what, 5, 6 years or so. Because when we started, it wasn't as hot as it is now.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's competition. There's celebrity brands out there. There are big brands who have millions and millions of dollars. And then, yeah, there are craft brands or smaller brands like us who are in competition with each other. What makes us a little bit different is because we do have the world's only coconut lime Blanco tequila. We
Yeah,
also have the first Morocco Blood Orange Blanco tequila. So that kind of sets us a little bit apart. Also, me being the first Black woman to own a tequila brand and lead one, that sets us apart as well. And of course, winning all the awards that we've won, that kind of puts us in a different category. So we
yeah.
have a couple of things that kind of gets us out of the pack that people can look at.
Did you find was it a bit of a challenge? Because it seems to be like a very male dominated industry. And then I would also think, actually, I don't want to say more than that because I honestly don't know, but it's obviously very much like a male dominated industry, right? So did you find, is there, like if you were going to meetings and your husband was with you, did you find that they were kind of like talking to your husband and not you, and you're having to kind of elbow your way in front or
Always.
make him go wait in the car?
Always. Even the times that I was out by myself, they would look at me like I didn't know what I was talking about. And then I would start running down even their like liquor. So I'm talking about maybe retailers, locations, and things like that. I could run. And truly, this was education from my husband, though, too,
Yeah,
because he was more of a tequila snob, as I call him, prior to me being in tequila. But then I was really learning from him a lot. I knew my stuff at that time. And then I started running down things and giving them education. And then they're like, oh, okay, well, maybe she knows what
yeah,
she's talking
yeah.
about. So,
Instead of treating you like the little lady, they're starting to treat you like the entrepreneur. Yeah,
but you know what? I got that in corporate too, because in corporate, I was in executive leadership, and me being a woman of color, and a woman, a lot of rooms I was in, I was the only woman and or the only person of color.
right.
So it's not foreign to me,
Yeah, yeah,
always having to prove, that I know something.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but good for you for being able to kind of, stand in your space, right?
I've had to for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
It's so funny, like as women and women of a certain age, just how we are having to kind of constantly prove ourselves and just have a
Always.
voice. I find it frustrating. Like we've had, like I was mentioning earlier, like the construction. I'm pointing, not that you can see, not that anyone can see when it's audio, but pointing towards my basement. But it's like we've had contractors here, and my husband is a lawyer, and not that he doesn't know about certain things, but I feel like I probably spend more time on the internet like, Googling stuff. So it's like the contractors are like trying to talk to him, and he's like backing off. He's like, you have to talk to my wife. She's the one that knows, not me. So
Right. I mean, my husband does that a lot. He'll be like, "You need to talk to her. I don't know anything
yeah,
about that piece." We do have clear lines on what we handle with the business as well. So it's also like if someone is asking about finance or anything like that, he's like, "You got to talk to her, not me."
yeah, she's the face and the numbers.
Right.
I was trying to dig up the original email from your husband too, because it was very sweet when he was like suggesting for you to be a guest. He's obviously your number one fan, which is
He
great.
is. He is. And we are at events and things like that. And we don't tell each people that he's my husband first off, especially if they've never heard our story or don't know us. But after he gets to talking and his spiel, as I call it, they're like, are you guys together? Because they're like, if you're not, you should be, because he's like
Yeah,
your biggest fan.
you're like your employee loves you.
Right? We had that the other day. Somebody was like, he's a good salesman. Like, if you don't
Yeah,
well, that's my husband. He's like, I was gonna say because he's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
like,
You might need to write him up to HR. So how do you find like being, I honestly have no idea how old you are, but how do you find being in the industry at your age as well? Like, do you find like is it helpful for you? Because I do find like as we get older, we get a lot more kind of confidence and maybe a bit more like we put up with less shit as well. Right. So,
I think so. I'm 51. So,
okay.
it I don't know. Sometimes it does come across as that, I'm sure. Like you just have more confidence, and with life experiences, typically when you're getting past 50, you have some sort of wisdom on some
Yeah.
things.
Well, and I would imagine as well, like not only just being like over 50, but then going through, the cancers that you went through. Obviously, you're a survivor, and maybe that also kind of helped pave that way of like you put up with like less, like life is too short. You probably think too, right?
It is. I grew up as a child of domestic violence. So, it taught me from a young age about just, that developed my character of being, strong and resilient and things and adaptable to
Yeah,
things because of just the environment that I grew up in, but then also having the cancer challenges as well.
yeah,
So all of those things, and then just total life experience. I lived in New York for a couple years when I was 18 to like 21. I modeled for a minute. That was a whole life lesson. Just
y-
being in New York is a whole life.
yeah, yeah,
But also just Getting married at a young age. I was married when I was 21. Had my daughter, my oldest daughter, young, and just all of these life experiences teach you so many things. So yeah, by the time you get 50 or over 50, I think you should have some experiences and some wisdom about some things.
Yeah, absolutely.
At this point, aging is a privilege because every day we see things are happening and people are surviving them. A lot of people are like, it's amazing that you're here. You're a walking testimony just because of the fact I had pancreatic cancer and I had the surgery. A lot of people know that Steve Jobs had that same surgery and he didn't survive, but I did,
Yeah,
and so a lot of that comes with that. So in my family, my community, absolutely aging is a privilege because of just so many things that are going on. And you never know what could take you out. I mean, I've survived a couple cancers right now. So
yeah,
I'm 51. I will tell you I'm 51. I have no problem telling my age or anything like that. And I do. I think it's a privilege to be able to do so.
yeah,
And if you can impart wisdom and experience, within your community because of the life experiences you've had, 20, 30 years ago.
yeah. I feel too, just from a lot of women that I've spoken with, and as well, like as a hairstylist, I speak to women that are also not just guests on my podcast, right? I feel like it's a big Gen X thing where a lot of us are kind of like, this is how old we are, and like, there's only been a few people that I've spoken to where they're like, I don't really like to say my age, but most people, I feel like Gen X women were just like, this is it.
Right. This is what you get.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What you see is what you get.
That's it. I see a lot of stuff about Gen Xers, millennials, and Gen Zs and stuff like that. Because my oldest daughter is a millennial
Yeah,
and my youngest daughter is a Gen Z. But I truly believe we are that generation. Like, it is what it is. Take it or leave it.
yeah. And I think it's great because I feel like it also just changes the conversation when and again, like everyone's different. So I don't
Mhm.
think anyone should feel like they have to share what their age is. But I feel like the more we talk about it, the more people realize that we're not, the roller set, short hair, perm crowd.
No, no.
Like they have these expectations of what like I'm 54, right? And it's just so like people will say to me like, "Oh, you don't look 54." And I'm always like,
I
"Well, what does
know.
that look like?" You
But
know?
you know what? I look back on things, and I think it was what, The Golden Girls, and then, because I love that show, but they
Yeah.
were showing just basically how old they were when they started doing those shows, and it's
Yeah.
like, they're kinda like around the age we are now,
I
but they
know.
look so much older, and
So
I'm
much
like,
older.
"Oh my god."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not wearing muumuus, I'm not doing that, I'm not walking around with the bonnets, I'm not doing any of that. Those
No.
are baby boomers or whatever, even my mom doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So, I'm just like, "Yeah, what are we supposed to look like? We're supposed to look like we're just old?"
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why some people have a hard time with our generation. And by some people, I mean more men, but but they
Right.
have a hard time with our generation because they kind of they have these expectations that, we're just helpless and this is why I feel like my podcast has kind of like morphed a little bit where it's I mean it's great because I've always wanted to have women kind of I always said I don't want anybody younger than 45 to be a guest on my podcast. So even experts, I don't want anybody that's younger because I feel like we need to be speaking to our, age category in the audience in which we are. And just hearing everybody's like stories, like I feel, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to other episodes that I've done, but just hearing like your story and just other guests where they just, they've kind of like push through and everyone I'm trying to think now. I think most of my guests have been entrepreneurs or founders of something. And the fact too that it's kind of like later on in life, it's like pivoting a career,
Yeah.
right? I mean, later on in life, that sounds funny, but it's just
Yeah.
like in challenging ourselves and just saying like this is something that I've wanted to do. So like I think
Yeah.
it's great.
I mean, if you think about it, I started or me and my husband started this brand. We launched on the market. It'll be 7 years, actually in a couple next week, actually. It'll be
Yeah.
7 years, but, 8 years ago is when we started the companies. I was 44 at that time.
Yeah.
So that's considered, I guess, later in life, starting something from scratch as we did. But unfortunately or fortunately, my whole life I've had to reinvent myself several times. I was, like I said, a model for a couple years. Then I went on, I was actually a personal chef for a while.
Wow.
Even, having some high-end clients that I was cooking for. I've had several other businesses, even
Hmm.
though I worked in corporate.
Yeah.
I was in corporate for over 20 something years, 20 plus years, but I always had something else.
Yeah.
So I had corporate, but I also had some sort of side hustle business or whatever that I was doing. Just like everyone else, I was looking for what was for me and
Yeah.
or what I needed to help supplement either my income or supplement to get that creative outlet for me.
I was just
Really
thinking that
big.
exactly, that creative juice of like there's
Yeah.
something missing, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
corporate doesn't get it. I was financing that spreadsheets all day. So it's like that's not creative at all.
No, I've been in creative my entire career. And so I've always kind of reinvented myself like in patches here and there, but it's always been around like hair and makeup, right? And then
Yeah.
we moved to Singapore. So we were in Singapore for 15 years.
Ooh.
And when we were there, when I first moved there, it was great. And I was working a lot and shooting for Harper's Bazaar and Cosmo and like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. There's so many fashion magazines there. But then they had an election that was kind of like, and I don't want to get into politics too much, but they had an election that was kind of like make Singapore great again. And so suddenly I went from working all the time to like not working. But I
Yeah.
was doing hair at home. So I've always done that. Even like before moving to Singapore, I would do shoots here in Toronto. And then when I wasn't shooting, I had private clients. So in Singapore, it just kind of started growing where I started doing a lot more private clients. But then I started doing a little bit of reinvention. I was writing articles for some magazines as well, all around beauty. And then I started dabbling in photography as well. And then I just one day just said to my husband, I need to go back home.
Right.
And then I started the podcast. And so it's like, it's that constant, like reinvention
I mean, I,
and
I I think that's what it is too with us, maybe Gen Xers. We are constantly reinventing ourselves and constantly figuring out different things in life. I went from I've been in so many just different industries, and I got in finance by truly mistake. I just actually happened to be good at it. And it paid the bills,
yeah,
and it was corporate, and I was moving up the ladder, and
yeah,
still, like you said, I had something missing. So my creative wasn't like drawing or something like that. It was to have something else. And like I said, I was a personal chef for a while. So that was creative as far as putting together
yeah,
meals and all of these things. But also I had several competitions that I did back in the day for people who do music for TV and movies. I was dabbling in a lot of different things just because I was trying to find what that creative outlet is
yeah.
truly for me. And
And
I
it sounds like you're just
hope I
also
still
really strong. Sorry, say it again. I'm sorry. I
I
was
said it's
talking over you.
I don't know if I really still know.
I wonder. So no, I don't remember what I was going with that previous thought. But anyway, welcome to 54.
Exactly.
But I wonder, just as you were talking to, I was thinking too, like Gen X, like a lot of us were also latchkey kids too, right? And we were doing things on our own. And so I wonder if there's a certain restlessness with Gen X because we're always needing
Maybe.
to do something. Like maybe there's a bit of that. I
Maybe
don't.
because, you know what, if I truly look back at my corporate career, even though it was over 20 something years, I did not stay at a company longer than 5 years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did not stay. I mean, and it was, people are like, well, you were jumping to get, more salary. Yes, I
Yeah.
was doing that as well.
Yeah.
But I was never at a company longer than 5 years because I needed a new challenge. I needed a
Yeah.
new environment, something. And maybe that's with that restlessness. You're always trying
Maybe.
to find what that is.
Yeah. And just like hearing about you talking about doing like with the music and yeah, like are you thinking too like maybe you can take your brand and sponsor some events? Are you doing that already or
We've sponsored events over the years. Now our focus is more on events that are either community centered or
yeah,
for something. So we literally did an event last week for multiple sclerosis. It was an event for a fundraising event
yeah,
and things like that. And doing something for something that means something is
yeah,
more of what we're looking for now. We've
yeah,
done the events that are food and wine festivals, basically where people come to drink and basically get drunk, and they don't really remember any brands because they were drunk and they
yeah, yeah,
they were
yeah.
just drinking everything. But for us to have something that ties in with the community, there's an event here in Atlanta called Team Heidi, and they support. restaurant service workers. So
Mhm.
even during COVID, they help workers, with rent, they help them with groceries, they help them, you know what I'm saying? More
Yeah.
community focused. So that's
Yeah.
what we're on now.
Yeah.
Just because we've done all the drunk fests as we call them, and we're moving on to something more meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense for sure. So do you have any like next kind of direction that you're taking, or you're adding any other flavors, or what's your next step for?
I do have one other flavor that we wanna add, but I don't know when I'll be able to develop that. I'm in the what they call the R&D stage
Right.
of
And maybe
it
you don't want to
because
share it anyway in case someone.
yeah, I can't say where because it would be the only one on the market if,
Yeah.
when we're able to come out, because no one else has it right now, just like our coconut lime. Even like the blood orange, it took me about a year to find the actual right natural extract for that
Yeah.
because the main stuff is all sugar, and I was like, I can't have that, so I need to find something that's actually natural. So it took me a minute to find that one, and so I am searching actually right now for the flavor that we want to produce, probably in another year or so.
And I heard that you also do some public speaking, like you do some motivational talks as well.
I do, and you mentioned Boston. I was in Harvard in September. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
for the Black Alumni Conference there. Last year I did 3 keynote speeches, and
Yeah.
one was at Harvard, and then I went back to Michigan State as well. So yeah, I am, putting my toe in there just because I actually have been speaking in front of people since I was actually kindergarten. I was the valedictorian of my kindergarten class,
Oh
right?
my gosh, I love it.
I remember because I had, remember the legal size paper? It was the yellow, and
Yeah.
I had a speech. The speech was both sides,
Nice.
and I had to memorize it, and I missed one word. I do remember because when I faltered and I couldn't remember the word, I remember looking to the side, and my teacher was like, so I remember that.
Do you remember what your message was? Like what your key
No,
message was?
I just remembered that I forgot.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
So I was a straight A student for, most of my school career. And, I was in an honors class. And so by the time eighth grade comes, I was valedictorian.
Hmm.
I was planning to become a doctor. And so I shadowed a doctor for a while at eighth grade for a semester. Then I got to speak in front of the hospital about it.
That's
Um,
amazing.
and, I get to high school. And then when I graduated, I actually started working because I went to Wayne State University initially,
Okay.
and I started working with the Chavez Parks program, and I was speaking to juniors and seniors about just the program and things like that. But they picked me because they're like, "Well, you look young, so they can relate to you." So they were like, "So this is hundreds of students," and then I
Sorry,
got
I
a
just love that. You look young, so we'll let you speak
they're like, "You
here.
look young," that was late to you. I was like, "Okay." And one of the biggest conferences I spoke in front of was 2,000 people at that time, telling my story. Actually, this was after me having pancreatic cancer. And I brought tears to several people
Yeah.
with that. And then just had many speaking engagements since that. So, my husband was like, you really need to get out there because your story is important and if people just need that hope and or to know. So I am a national advocate for the Pancreatic Cancer Network, so PanCan.
Yeah.
And they had me in a commercial. I spoke in front of Congress on Zoom though, because I was during COVID,
Right.
about pancreatic cancer awareness. So these are all opportunities that I've, spoken in front of many, many people.
What can I ask you, because I honestly don't know, is pancreatic cancer, is that something that's genetic, is it environmental, or
I still don't know why I got into this day. My theory is because I had so much trauma in my environment from growing up that, that kind of sparked it. Because
Mhm.
we all know stress can kill you. Okay.
Yeah.
And stress can come in many forms in your body.
Yep.
And I truly feel just the trauma from my childhood, even from my first marriage, I that stress response created that tumor. That's my theory. It's not scientific. No doctor said that. But I still don't know because at the time I was 32 at the time. I
Mhm.
was not the age because usually people who get pancreatic cancer are 50 and older.
Right.
I've never smoked or anything. I was not sedentary as far as I was actually training for a marathon at the time. So I had a great diet. It really was no reason for me to get pancreatic cancer. And at the time, I swear every time I woke up in a hospital bed, it was 8 or 9 doctors around me just looking at me like, we don't even know why you got this. Like, you're in great shape besides this.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, we don't know.
So I don't know. It could have been, I think, because of my theory is probably environmental. I truly still today don't know why. And unfortunately, because my husband say I never mention it, something that I do live with from that is neutropenia. So
I don't know what that
um,
is.
it is where basically your bone marrow does not produce white T cells and or red blood cells as they should.
Okay.
So on my episodes that I've had, I would present with 106 fever, and then I would go in a hospital and be there for
Wow.
about a week. They would do a lumbar puncture spinal tap on me,
Oh
so
my
drawing
God.
fluid from my spine. And because and this was prior to COVID, in order to visit me, I had to have a private room. My joke was always like I couldn't be around sick people in the hospital. And you had to come in with the hat on, with the gloves and a mask and everything prior to COVID. This was
Yeah.
prior to COVID. To visit me, I called myself the bubble girl because I could not be around sickness because my body couldn't fight it off. Because when I had those episodes of neutropenia, all my white blood cells would disappear. And those are what helps your body fights infections and
Yeah.
colds and things like that. And I wouldn't have it. I did unfortunately have a blood transfusion in 2023 because my blood levels were low because again my body does not produce them as they should. But yeah, so and this growing old sucks because it also had to do with fibroids, as we know as
Yeah.
women get older, started getting these fibroids and it was making me bleed too much. And so my body couldn't keep up. I was literally losing blood like every month to the point that I could be hospitalized, to the point that I ended up having to have a blood transfusion.
Wow. Wow. I I've had ongoing health issues, but not to that severity whatsoever. I know everything is different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
I as well grew up in an abusive household when I was younger, and so sometimes I think about that as well. And I have an autoimmune disorder that they can't kind of figure out what it is, and I recently got told that they think that I've had a silent heart attack that they're now investigating to figure out, it's just like all these like crazy things that happen to her. Like now people in my family that have not heard this story, they're going to be listening to this episode. They're going to be like, what the fuck? By the way, surprise. But it's so interesting what our bodies, like what we go through
Yeah.
and just like,
What's
anyway.
crazy is, long ago, and I never got that. I think because this was when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. My oldest daughter is 29, so, I really don't remember, but it was a guest, and she was on Oprah. Now, I do remember that. She had written a book about how childhood trauma can sometimes manifest itself into, serious illnesses for adults. And even at that moment, that was before I even got pancreatic cancer. I was like, because of my childhood. And I was just like, And then so I thought about it even more so after I got pancreatic cancer. And then, 7 years later, I got breast cancer. And it was like, I wonder if there's some truth in that just
Yeah,
because I had that traumatic childhood and then I'm getting all this stuff for no reason. Like, I shouldn't have had pancreatic cancer if the doctors tell you anything. They're like, we still don't know why,
yeah.
and why would I get breast cancer as well? So yeah. I think it might be some validity to, that story in her book. And
It's I definitely feel like there's a lot of truth to all that too, because like when you're unhappy, and of course when you're going through trauma at any age, but it's going to manifest itself, right? So just the fact that you do a lot of motivational like speaking and things, do you have anything coming up for that, or do you have any messages that you'd like to share with people, or
Well, I do belong to a speakers bureau, so they did actually literally yesterday advise me that they submitted me for a keynote speaker for an event in California next year, but
Mhm.
also in Scotland. And I'm like, I'm hoping for the Scotland one.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
my husband is actually Irish, and I know it's like, they're next to each other. So I was like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to hook that up because I want to go to Scotland. So my message is always have faith in self.
Mhm.
Trust who you are, trust what you can do, and have faith in that. I'm just even with, the pancreatic cancer, breast cancer, just my life as a whole, surviving so many different things. I'm very resilient. I am adaptable, but my resiliency and my faith in myself has been a big message that I speak about. I do speak about leadership and entrepreneurship as well, depending on the conference or whatever they want to focus on. But those are the three main things that I usually talk about
Yeah.
when I'm doing a keynote speech.
Yeah. I mean, faith in self, we have to believe in ourselves and shut up
Yeah.
all the other voices, which can be hard sometimes.
Well, and that goes with mindset. It is comparative that I do speak about mindset because people always ask me about pancreatic cancer. Like, how did you get through that and not really just worry about it and things like that? Because as it's come out even more over the years, a lot of people have passed pancreatic cancer, but we just didn't know. When Patrick Swayze died, of pancreatic cancer, he died very quickly. Steve Jobs, he was one of the richest people in the world, and he still passed away from pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she died of pancreatic cancer. John Lewis, it's all of these people that have passed of pancreatic cancer, and people are like, "Well, how did you survive?" Like, not like
Yeah. Yeah.
some superhero on and shoot some. Well, probably because at that time I was 32 and I was looking like, look here, I don't have time for this. Can we do a laser surgery or something? Like I got work to do. I got a kid. My oldest daughter was like 8 at the time. I
Yeah.
was like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah. You're like,
And
I've got
my
a big meeting next Wednesday at 2.
I literally, seriously, I was in the hospital. I got in the hospital on a Monday by that Thursday because I had 106 fever. That's why I went in, and that's why they found the mass on my pancreas. And by that Thursday, I literally was like, okay, so what do we need to do here? My fever's gone, everything. He was like, well, you're gonna have to have a surgery. I was like, okay, so we can do some laser or something. I'll be out here in a couple of days. He was like, no. He looked at me like I was crazy, like, no, you obviously don't understand how serious.
You're pulling out your calendar and you're like, well, I need
Okay,
to.
so what do I have to do? And
Yeah.
he was like telling me the whole surgery. And I was like, I don't have time for all of it. And he was like, well, you do know if you don't get this surgery, you may not be
Yeah.
here.
I mean, illness could be so inconvenient, can it?
He was looking at me like you are looking like this is an inconvenience. But the thing is, if you don't have this, you will probably not be here. So you
Yeah.
need to understand how serious this is. So yeah, my mindset at that time, and I'm my mother's only child. So, she was actually very worried. And
Mm.
then I literally was in the hospital even after my surgery. I was like, I'm gonna be fine. I'll be out of here. Cause they were like, well, we have to do a lot. So I don't know if you know, but with the Whipple, they removed the head of my pancreas, they removed my gallbladder, they removed my duodenum duct, which is the beginning of your small intestine, and they also removed 25% of my stomach.
Wow.
They're like, well, usually people are here for 6 weeks in the hospital and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I will be out of here in 2 weeks. I don't care what y'all say. I will be out of here in 2 weeks. I was like, I don't have 4 or 6 weeks to be in.
Yeah. Sorry, this doesn't fit in with my schedule. And I just think too of like men, like when men get a cold, not like I'm always like, I feel like I'm shitting on men all the time and I don't mean to, but I mean, they do it to themselves. It's like they get a cold and they're like, oh, I'm dying. Like, oh, I think I'm really sick. And it's like,
Right,
it's like you're having half your body removed.
right. And I was
And
like,
you're like, can I get out of here next week?
I will be out of here in 2 weeks. I was out 2 weeks to that day. I couldn't walk, but I was still out because
Yeah.
I was in a wheelchair because they had to cut my abdomen, so I had no muscle to stand up to hold my body up. But I was out,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
and
my
I was
gosh.
just like, "Yeah, y'all not keeping me here for that long." And in my head, I was like, "I'm fine. I will be out of here."
Oh,
But yes, it was my mindset, and then of course getting breast cancer, several years later, I was like, "Okay, so I done been here before. What do I need to do to
yeah.
less surgery? I'm not gonna be in here." All that. I had the same mindset.
You're like, you've got until Friday at 5 p.m. and then I gotta be out of here.
Right. I did. I had the lumpectomy, breast cancer. But then I did tell her, and maybe this is with us Gen X as well. We get to that point where it's like, I really don't care. I told my breast surgeon at the time, I said, okay, so because she said I do have a 65% chance of it returning.
Right.
And I said, okay, so we're not going to slice and dice these babies. I said, if I come back in here, we are cutting them off and I'm getting a new pair. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
And
out.
I want these ones.
Right. I was like a new perky pair at that. So it's like,
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's so frightening, I'm sure, when you're going through it, but it is kind of funny how, like, afterwards we can make jokes and stuff about it.
I
And
was making them then, and I think it's because and I truly feel, my mindset was more of I did not take it as woe is me, like, "Oh my god, I got cancer, this and this." I took it as, "Okay, this is what we gotta do, Nayana, this is what we're going to do,
yeah,
and we're gonna move past it, and we're gonna move on."
on that note,
I know, and now you can see, like, some of the parts of my stories that I tell
yeah,
I people get very emotional,
yeah.
just because and I understand why, and I do try to tell it in a way that I'm not crying while I'm speaking, but I have to tell the story as it is and what I actually went through because truly then I feel when people can relate and there's some sort of emotion in it, they truly listen to the message.
Yes. I think too, just when you've gone through things and you can be such a strong voice for people as well. Some people that are out there that are struggling, because not everyone is as strong. And
Yeah,
then when they see somebody like you that has gone through it, that's pulled through, that has been really successful with your business, it kind of motivates them as well. And they're like, okay, I can do it too, you know?
and that's what I'm always hoping. Always hoping that if I can help even one person, by motivating or inspiring them in some way, then I feel that's why I'm still here.
It's very much the true, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right. And, going for a year, almost and a half of having to do iron transfusions until I had my surgery in November of 2024. Yeah. But I had
Yeah.
to, or I would not be here again
Wow.
because my blood levels got so low. The reason I had to get a blood transfusion, my doctor, I have to get a yearly blood draw for testing for everything because I'll always be a cancer patient.
Yeah.
And my doctor called me and was like, "I need you to go to the emergency room right now." And I took the blood draw on Friday. This was Monday morning, like at 8 a.m. And I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Your blood levels are to the point that I don't even understand how you're walking around and you haven't passed out." She's like, "Your heart is not getting enough blood to it because your blood levels are so low." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I just worked out. Like, I feel fine." And
You're
she's
like, "I'm just in Starbucks getting a frappuccino. Do I have, like, 10 minutes?"
and she's like, "Yes, go to the emergency." So I tell my husband, he's like, "What?" He's like, "Did you just work out or just fine?" I was like, "I don't feel anything." And we go, and emergency was like, yeah, your blood levels are to the point that your heart is not getting enough blood to pump to your organs." And they're like, "You are a person, probably your body adapted. You run low so long that your body is adapted to it, but it's still, you are not safe."
Yeah.
And they would not let me leave unless I got a blood transfusion.
You know, women too, like, we're so bloody tough, right? And, like, again, my health has not been that, bad, but I go every few months to my rheumatologist, and so recently, it was about 6 weeks ago, but she was like, "Anything new?" Well, I said, "I've been having, like, chest pain for a while," and she looks at me, she's like, "How's like, what's a while? What's going on exactly?" And then I describe it to her, and she's like, "Andrea, I now have to send you to emergency." And I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yes. I would be a shitty doctor if I didn't send you to emergency. You need to go, like, right now." So she wrote me a letter that I had to take to the hospital. I stopped at the mall because I had ordered a laptop and it was delivered. And I was like, "Well, I need to get my laptop."
Might as well.
Well, I haven't dropped dead, like, in the past 6 weeks. I've been feeling this chest pain. So, like, what's, like, a few more minutes to go pick up my laptop?
Well, and one of those times that I had my neutropenic episode, as I like to call them, I had 106 fever. I drove myself to the hospital because I had my daughter, and I was like, I need to get there and bring her there so then I can call. It was my mother, my ex-mother-in-law, but we were very close to come get her. And I was like, it's gonna take too long for an ambulance and all this stuff. And the hospital is literally like 5 miles away. I had
Sorry, I'm just
150
laughing. It's like the ambulance will take too long. My car's out front.
ambulance even gets here. And so I get to the hospital and the lady looked at me, she's like, you have 106 fever. Did you drive yourself here? I was like, yeah. You could have had a seizure. I was like, I made it. I'm good. It's just I had
And
to get
this is
somebody.
why, as women, we can do anything that we put our minds to.
I had a headache. I had a migraine because that type of fever really hurts. And it was August and it was sunny and I had my glasses on and everything and I was squinting and everything the whole time. But it was literally like a straight shot and then a left turn. In my head, I was like, I got it.
I just need to find the big blue H and no
I
problem.
got it. Right. I knew exactly where it was. I got it. They just looked at me like, woman, you are crazy.
Oh my God. Well, I'm
But yeah,
glad you got
I got
there.
it there. Hey, I mean, So yeah, maybe that's why, I have the problem where I think I can do anything.
Yeah. I mean, is it a problem though? Not really. We just need to take time for ourselves.
I know. And that's hard right there. That trying to have that balance. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
the everyday struggle. So
well, thank you so much for spending the time with me and telling me your
okay.
story and yeah, it's great. You have so much. I mean, it sounds like you should also write a book.
I am in that process because I have about 3 stories that people have always been like, okay, so you need to write a book about this because you never know who it could touch, motivate, inspire, relate to
Yes.
with
Yes.
people going through all the things that, this world, life is tough as it is, and if I can help, even with the levity that I inject in everything that I've been in, all these challenges I've been in, truly, when I do talk about them and the things, the jokes that I make, I did do them at that moment in time. And I think that was probably a sense of me dealing with it as well,
Yeah.
making it a source of trying not to make it as serious.
I feel like I want to like interject more stories, but we've we'll have to do a
I
part
got
two
stories for
when
days.
you launch the mystery flavor or
Yeah,
tequila. The next one we'll have to do a part
yeah.
two.
Yeah, believe me, I have stories for days. They're unfortunately they are, part of the challenges I've been in, but the way I've handled them, people just be like, "You are something else."
Thanks for tuning in to the Fuck You 50s. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. And we'd love to connect with you on Instagram, so be sure to follow us at the Fuck You 50s. The Fuck You 50s is hosted by Andrea Claire. See you next time.